Imagine standing in the middle of the Sahara Desert and seeing an ocean stretching to the horizon. Not an ocean of water, an ocean of mirrors. Hundreds of thousands of giant mirrors moving in perfect synchronization, silently tracking the sun from sunrise to sunset across one of the hottest landscapes on Earth. At first glance, it looks like a futuristic city built by science fiction writers, but this is real. Deep in southern Morocco, near the gateway city of Ouarzazate, engineers created one of the most ambitious renewable energy projects ever attempted. Covering thousands of hectares of desert, Noor Solar Complex became one of the largest concentrated solar power facilities on the planet. But the most surprising part is not its size, it is what happens after sunset. Unlike most solar farms which stop producing electricity when darkness arrives, Noor was designed to continue generating power long into the night. To accomplish that, engineers had to solve one of renewable energy's biggest challenges: how to store the sun itself. The result was a project that cost billions of dollars, required years of construction, and transformed a remote section of the Sahara into a symbol of energy independence for an entire nation. Today, we explore why Morocco built this extraordinary solar megaproject, how engineers made 500,000 mirrors work together in one of the harshest environments on Earth, and why this giant desert experiment captured the attention of the global energy industry.
For decades, Morocco faced a problem shared by many developing nations. Its economy was growing, its population was increasing, its demand for electricity was rising every year. But the country lacked major reserves of oil and natural gas. As industries expanded and cities consumed more energy, Morocco found itself importing enormous quantities of fossil fuels from abroad. This dependency created both economic and strategic challenges. Every fluctuation in global oil prices could affect national energy costs. Every international disruption threatened supply chains. The more electricity Morocco needed, the more vulnerable it became to external energy markets. Officials began searching for a long-term solution. And when they looked at a map of Morocco, one answer seemed impossible to ignore: the Sahara. Southern Morocco receives some of the highest levels of solar radiation anywhere on Earth. Many areas enjoy more than 300 sunny days per year. While other nations saw the desert as an obstacle, Moroccan planners began viewing it as an opportunity. Instead of importing energy from abroad, why not produce it at home? Instead of relying on fossil fuels, why not harness one of the country's most abundant natural resources? The idea eventually evolved into a national strategy. Morocco announced plans to dramatically increase renewable energy production and reduce dependence on imported fuels. The centerpiece of that vision would be Noor Ouarzazate. The name Noor means light in Arabic, and the project would become exactly that: a massive source of energy generated directly from sunlight. However, building a giant solar farm in the desert was far easier to imagine than to actually construct. Traditional solar panels had a serious weakness: they only worked when the sun was shining. For Morocco's growing economy, that wasn't enough. Factories needed electricity at night. Cities needed power after sunset. The national grid required stable energy around the clock. Engineers needed a way to make solar energy available even when the sky was dark. That challenge would ultimately define the entire project. Because Noor was never intended to be just another solar farm. It was designed to become something far more ambitious: a solar power plant capable of storing daylight itself.
Most people imagine solar farms as endless fields of photovoltaic panels. Noor works differently. Instead of converting sunlight directly into electricity, the complex relies heavily on concentrated solar power technology. The concept sounds simple: use mirrors to focus sunlight onto a receiver, capture the heat, store that heat, then use it to generate electricity whenever needed. But executing that idea on an industrial scale required an extraordinary engineering effort. Construction began on a vast plateau outside Ouarzazate. The location offered ideal conditions: high elevation, minimal cloud cover, exceptional solar exposure, and large areas of relatively flat land. Engineers first prepared the desert surface and created enormous foundations capable of supporting hundreds of thousands of moving mirrors. These were not ordinary mirrors. Each parabolic mirror had to track the sun with remarkable precision throughout the day. Computer-controlled motors continuously adjusted their position. As the sun moved across the sky, entire rows of mirrors rotated together, keeping reflected sunlight focused on central receiver tubes. Inside those tubes flowed a specialized heat transfer fluid. Temperatures could rise to hundreds of degrees Celsius. The captured thermal energy was then transported through an intricate network of pipes to power generation facilities. At full operation, the amount of concentrated heat moving through the system was enormous. Yet generating heat was only part of the challenge. The real breakthrough involved storage. Traditional solar facilities struggle because electricity production declines immediately after sunset. Noor attacked that problem using giant molten salt storage systems. The principle is surprisingly elegant. When excess solar energy is available during the day, it is used to heat large quantities of molten salt. The salt acts like a thermal battery. Unlike conventional batteries, which store electricity chemically, molten salt stores energy as heat. The material can remain extremely hot for long periods while retaining much of its energy. When electricity is needed after sunset, the stored heat is released. Steam is generated, turbines begin spinning, and electricity continues flowing into the national grid. In effect, the desert becomes a giant thermal energy reservoir. This capability transformed Noor from a daytime power source into a much more reliable component of Morocco's energy infrastructure. Yet building such a system inside the Sahara introduced countless obstacles. Dust storms regularly swept across the region. Extreme temperatures stressed mechanical equipment. Mirror surfaces required constant cleaning to maintain efficiency. Even a thin layer of desert dust could significantly reduce performance. Therefore, engineers developed specialized maintenance operations involving cleaning vehicles, monitoring systems, and inspection teams working across enormous distances. Water management became another challenge. Although concentrated solar plants require cleaning and cooling processes, water remains scarce in desert environments. Project planners had to carefully balance operational needs with environmental realities. Infrastructure also needed to be built from scratch. Roads, transmission networks, control centers, maintenance facilities, electrical substations. Everything required for a modern industrial-scale energy complex had to function reliably in one of the world's harshest climates. Years of construction followed. Gradually, the mirror fields expanded. Receiver systems were completed. Storage facilities became operational. Power generation infrastructure came online. And one of the largest renewable energy projects ever attempted began taking shape across the Sahara. From above, the completed complex looked almost unreal. Rows upon rows of mirrors stretching across the desert, a landscape transformed by engineering, a power plant visible from space, and perhaps the most advanced demonstration of concentrated solar power technology ever built.
When Noor entered operation, its significance extended far beyond Morocco. The project challenged one of the biggest criticisms of renewable energy: intermittency. For years, critics argued that solar power could never become a reliable foundation for modern electrical grids because sunlight disappears every evening. Noor offered a different perspective. By combining solar collection with thermal energy storage, engineers demonstrated that renewable energy could continue supporting electricity demand even after sunset. This made the project a global case study. Energy planners around the world began examining its performance. Researchers studied its storage capabilities. Governments evaluated whether similar systems could be deployed elsewhere. The project also strengthened Morocco's international reputation as a renewable energy leader. A country once heavily dependent on imported fuels had successfully positioned itself at the forefront of one of the world's most advanced clean energy technologies. Beyond electricity production, Noor generated economic benefits. Construction created thousands of jobs. Infrastructure investment stimulated regional development. International partnerships attracted additional funding and expertise. The complex became a symbol of national ambition. Yet the project also revealed important limitations. Concentrated solar power is not cheap. Building massive mirror fields, storage facilities, and supporting infrastructure requires enormous capital investment. Photovoltaic solar panels continued falling in price during the same period. As a result, many countries chose cheaper solar technologies instead of large, concentrated solar facilities. Critics questioned whether similar projects could remain economically competitive. Others pointed to maintenance costs associated with operating complex
complex mechanical systems in harsh desert environments. These debates continue today. But regardless of differing opinions, Noor achieved something important. It proved that large-scale thermal energy storage could work. It showed that renewable energy projects could be designed to operate beyond daylight hours, and it demonstrated that engineering innovation could overcome challenges once considered fundamental limitations of solar power. The project also reflects a broader shift occurring across the energy sector. Countries are increasingly searching for ways to combine renewable generation with energy storage. Whether through batteries, pumped hydro systems, hydrogen production, or thermal storage, the goal remains the same: reliable, clean energy. Noor became one of the earliest large-scale examples of that vision in action.
For centuries, the Sahara Desert was viewed as an empty expanse of heat, sand, and isolation. Today, part of that landscape tells a different story. A story of mirrors, molten salt, and engineering ambition. The Noor Ouarzazate Solar Complex was never simply about generating electricity. It was about solving a problem. How do you make solar energy available when the sun is gone? Morocco's answer involved 500,000 mirrors, massive thermal storage systems, and one of the most ambitious renewable energy projects ever built. The result transformed a remote section of the Sahara into a symbol of technological innovation and energy independence. Whether concentrated solar power becomes a dominant energy technology remains uncertain. The economics continue to evolve. Competing technologies continue to advance. But Noor has already secured its place in engineering history. Because in one of the hottest deserts on Earth, engineers found a way to capture daylight, store it, and release it hours later. And in doing so, they challenged the idea that solar power must disappear with the setting sun. For Morocco, it became more than a power plant. It became proof that sometimes the biggest solutions can emerge from the most unlikely places.